Hello, I'm Catherine Dolan, the Indiana Supreme Court Chief Public Information Officer. Indiana Court Times is the state's publication for judicial communications. With us today is Judge Geoffrey Gaither of Marion County in this issue as the sidebar judge. Judge Gaither, welcome. I'm joining you from our beautiful Supreme Court Law Library, and as you know, so many things have moved to Zoom. How are you handling trial court proceedings in Marion County?
Well, as you know, Catherine, the juvenile court facilities are separate and apart from the adult facilities. We're out on the east side of Indianapolis, and so we have shut the building down. We only go into the building for contested denials or contested evidentiary hearings. Other than that, we're all virtual. Now, the kids are in the detention center, which is still connected to the facility. And so we still, it's an alive, active building for the most part. I only go to the building once every 2 weeks.
Now, recently you went through the Judicial Nominating Commission process after having served many, many years as a magistrate, now appointed as judge. And I'm hopeful that you can talk a little bit about that process and demystify it. We certainly want lawyers and judges to consider throwing their name in the hat when opportunities become available. But frankly, you know, it could be a little intimidating to say, I'm going to put myself out there and go before the commission. Can you talk a little bit about your experience?
I enjoyed the experience. Now, I've always taken the position that I am my best subject. And words are our stock and trade for lawyers and judges. And if you're unable to talk about yourself, then maybe you are in the wrong profession. As much as you could enjoy something, I enjoyed the process. I didn't think it was arduous. I mean, it's like a resume on steroids in terms of filling out the application process.
And so do you have any words of wisdom for someone who thinks, I just don't see myself there, but maybe they should?
Yes. I mean, no pain, no gain. And I think I was saying that my grandfather used to say that the answer to every question is no, unless you ask. And you will never get that prize unless you try to get it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen if you ask? They can only either say no, but what you get when you don't get what you want is that you get experience. And so an experience is very, very helpful. I encourage everybody to please apply, especially women, especially lawyers of color. Because we really need to change the face of the judiciary so it's more reflective of the at-large population. And certainly the commission in itself reflects diversity. And so it should be a place where you feel comfortable talking about yourself. I mean, you know, half the lawyers I know, and maybe even 3/4 of the lawyers I know are frustrated actors or hams at best. Everybody thinks they're the comedian or the best philosopher or whatever, and the world becomes a stage. Well, that room of 14 members is a stage in which you're there to put on your best self in its best show. So yes, go out there.
Judge, your parents seem like fascinating people. Your dad is an adventure man. What great stories you must have to tell and reminisce. I really enjoyed reading about that. Maybe something we could discuss here that fits in nicely is your thoughts on privilege. I was at a conference recently where a female Black judge talked about her daily life going, what she called in and out of privilege on a daily basis. On the bench, she's referred to as Your Honor. In the grocery store, someone cuts in front of her. This story that she told really made an impression on me, and I bring it up because it aligns with some of your thoughts of, in one hand, growing up in privilege, but on the other hand, not. And so a good conversation has to be had. Can you talk about that a little bit?
My father is not was not a classically educated man. My mother was. My mother had 2 graduate degrees, went to Butler, was an elementary teacher, became a school principal. Dad was a photographer. He went to the Army, and he was literally a self-made, self-trained man who, as I heard, barely got out of high school. And but they loved each other, you know. And I remember early on, Dad wanted this particular job in the Army, and he couldn't get it because he was Black, and that had an impression upon me. And then and I identified with the judge who talked about privilege on the bench and not so, because You know, the other day, not the other day, about a couple years ago, I'm driving on the street. I was speeding. The officer stopped me, and he came to the car with his hand on his gun. And I'm like, gee, you know, I'm in the car with my sons, and the whole time he's talking to me, he was very aggressive, just this short of rude. But I didn't understand why he had his hand on his gun, and the manner when I was just speeding. I mean, give me a ticket. Don't shoot me. And I'm concerned because I'm with my sons. I was taking them to band practice, and he kept his hand on his gun while he's looking at my badge, and I'm telling him, "Hey, I know I was speeding. I'm sorry." And I'm like, dude, why am I feeling this way? You know, if you're going to give me a ticket, give me a ticket. Don't shoot me. We're just a family going down the street. You know, I've had hundreds of what I would consider to be microaggression activities. You know, once we were at a judicial conference in Chicago. Conference is over. We're leaving. And this man and his family approached me and asked me to get him an umbrella because it was raining. He thought I was the bellhop because I was the only black man in the lobby. I'm standing there, and I have this big badge that said Magistrate Geoffrey Gaither, Juvenile Court. And I'm like, you totally missed the badge and just saw me and made the connection that this is the one, you know, those games, circle the object that doesn't belong. You know, I was the object that didn't belong in the lobby because I was the only black man in the lobby. Therefore, I must be the bellhop, even though the bellhops had on dazzling bellhop uniforms. How could you miss them? But you missed the uniform and went to the black man. It happened once again, judicial conference. These ladies wanted me to get them some water. It gets more than a little exhausting. It's tiring. It's daily. My son graduated from the University of Vermont Law School, and we're in Burlington, Vermont for his graduation ceremony. I needed to take my middle son to the Dartmouth coast so he could take a plane back from Boston to Indianapolis. Okay, fine. I drop him off, and I'm sitting there in a bus terminal waiting for the bus to take off. Now, I'm in a gray, charcoal gray pinstripe suit with a white vest, a red and white polka dot tie, cufflinks, cubic zirconium cufflinks, Ferragamo shoes, and whatnot. And I'm sitting there by myself. And this white guy comes out, 50s, 60s, jeans, leather jacket, carrying a bag. He's walking to the bus because the bus is there with the door open. He looks at me and says, "Are you the bus driver? I'm ready to go." And okay, I'm in a three-piece suit, okay, with a tie and when have you seen a bus driver? You know, and it blew me away because we're there for my son's law school graduation. So we're feeling all kinds of way about family and continuity and just all of that. And just like that, 5 words, "Are you the bus driver?" Totally. I mean, and that happened. Well, that was 3 years ago, and still I'm just, you know. So that's life.
What do you tell youngsters in your court who are facing for a variety of reasons, whether it be race or poverty, any variety of reasons that are reasons why a path to success is quite difficult for them? And what do you tell them? What words of wisdom do you have for someone facing an unlikely path to success?
There is no substitute for hard work, okay? Life is unfair, and real life is real hard. And sometimes it is very hard. And if you want fairness, go to church, okay? But we're not in church. You must work hard for everything that you want and everything that you expect to get. And sometimes you don't get what you deserve. You get what you get. And you can't cry about what other people have received when you have not, because that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you have to work, and you have to work hard. I talk about the success of Michael Jordan. And I make the sports analogy. Now I realize I'm an old guy because most of the kids now don't even know who Michael Jordan is. I have to talk about somebody else. But I talked about his work ethic and his preparation that you don't see, that you just see the tip of the iceberg. And I said, you have to be that. And you can't worry or cry about people of privilege receiving things that you don't have, because that has existed since the book of Genesis. Okay, and so there's no point in crying about that. Handle your business. You can do those things that you are responsible for, and find satisfaction in your true self. I don't try to sugarcoat it. I mean, life is hard. Listen, I was a magistrate for 25 years. I mean, that is. I have toiled in the fields of the judiciary for a very long time. I paid my dues and your dues and everybody else's dues. But there's prize in the end, though. And so hard work pays off. I got a lot of these sayings. The only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary. If you want to be successful, you have to work at it. And mediocrity is the enemy of excellence. For excellence in everything that we do. And being good enough is not good enough. And so excellence is the prize. Excellence is what we do.
Thank you so much, Judge Gaither, for sharing your story with us. I really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better, as I know those who are watching this will as well. Thank you for joining us on this issue of Indiana Court Times. Be sure to check out the full issue in the description below and find more interviews on our channel at the end of this video.